Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Happy CEO podcast. I'm so excited to be bringing not only the podcast back, but I have one of my favorite humans here with me today, Dr. Erin Sheffield. She is a board certified oral and maxillofacial surgeon, but yet so much more. Speaker, the founder of the Elevate Summit Retreat, which is going to have a new name soon that I know you're really excited about. She's a leadership and personal development expertise, really. And this is what she is here for, creating this experience for women in surgery and medicine, which I can't wait to dig into. She is known for her authenticity and vulnerability, and Erin shares candid reflections on her journey through her social media, where she inspires a growing community with her honest takes on surgical life, motherhood, and the complexities of being a woman in a male dominated field, plus the occasional funny surgical meme. Yes, you have a lot of those. She's passionate about mentorship, breaking down barriers in healthcare, and helping others thrive, not just professionally, but personally. Welcome, Dr. Erin, in the
Thank
house.
you. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
I am so excited to talk to you because we just kind of met, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. So obviously both in dentistry, but in dentistry is kind of like a smaller, I feel like a smaller um, field, kind of ish.
hmm hmm
But we've just somehow crossed paths on social, and now I feel like I've known you forever. Amazing.
Yeah, I think I started following you. I've been following you for probably a year or two now. And I think we just started commenting and liking each other's stuff
Yeah.
more and kind of just organic friendship has emerged.
Which I love, and perfect timing. We talk about this all the time. When people are like ready, like how the connections are made, which is so good.
Definitely.
I love where we're at right now. So on these podcasts, and I'm so excited to be back and talking to you, as I mentioned. I usually open with taking us back to when you became interested. So, depending on like what, and I know you're interested in a lot of things, but particularly, like I said, your heart's really being called for so much more even than oral surgery.
hmm
But let's even just start dentistry, like the interest in teeth. Can you take us
Yeah.
back?
I think a lot of people start with that, you've always wanted to be a dentist. And I'm like, no way, Jose. It
Yeah.
was not even on my radar. I was about halfway through undergrad. I was a zoology major, became a biology major when they dropped my major. I had a minor in marine biology, and I was really passionate about the ocean. I was really getting into scuba diving, and I just saw myself being a marine biology professor. I love teaching. I wanted to be in the college experience. And I wanted to be, on the coast diving and collecting specimens and being one of those people going deep down in those submersible ROVs and seeing the creepy stuff in the dark. And so I did a
Oh my
whole
gosh.
summer semester in Monterey, California, and I loved it, but I kind of had the realization that I think probably what my life was really going to be as a marine biology professor or professional is probably staring at snails all day in an aquarium
I'm
and
starfish
the starfish, and they're great.
museum.
I fed the octopi that we brought back with us when we came back to our campus in Utah, and I never saw them the whole, whole semester or year. So
Wow.
it just felt like, oh, this is kind of disappointing because I really had my heart set on that and I just felt super lost. And so I have identical twin sister and she said, "You should be a dentist." And I was like, "Yeah, right." And my dad was like, "Oh,
Ah.
dentistry is a great career for women." And I kind of laughed it off, but I started looking into it and I started working on the prereqs, and I realized that, like, yeah, this is something that I could do and it's pretty interesting. I like being very hands-on and I like working with, individuals and all of that. So once I started looking into it, I really found a passion for it, and that's how I landed there. But I still like scuba diving, just not getting paid for that.
This is fascinating. Oh my gosh. And it just brought to my attention when I was just at the Cape this past week with my sisters. I watched that submarine documentary. But
Oh.
going on there to see, and all I kept thinking was, I could never, I could never. Who would do that? You know, the one that kind of like exploded when it did. Oh gosh. But just the dark, the depths, and being, kind of like stuck like that.
Hmm.
Wild, wild transition though, because I feel like we are called, I know you believe that too, like
Hmm.
for different things and a legacy, but like how you were redirected and through your sister, a twin,
Yeah.
even more wild. So when she said dentistry, you didn't get the like, ew, teeth kind of thing at all.
I had never considered it. It just had never, ever, ever come into my wheelhouse.
Mm,
Again, I'm from Utah. There at the time were very few women dentists in Utah. I had never met a woman dentist. I'd never seen a woman dentist. And so to me, saying you as a woman should be a dentist felt like go be a welder or go be a truck driver. And not that women don't do those jobs, but you
yeah.
mainly see men in those jobs. And I could have been an awesome welder or probably, well, I'm afraid to drive a big truck. Maybe I could have learned to be a good truck driver,
Uh-huh.
So not to say that women can't or shouldn't or aren't as good, but I had just never seen that modeled to me. And so I'd never considered it. And I think that's one reason why it's so important to have people who are like you, who look like you, who have values like you, whichever way are like you as mentors, just so people can see themselves in you and maybe have the
Yeah.
confidence to do something they didn't, even consider before.
Yeah, mirrors. Everything is a mirror to us, and especially like a twin. That's why I find that so fascinating
Hmm.
that she said it and then you explored it and were completely open to it. Um, and then loved it enough to continue not only to keep going, but then to go into surgery.
Right.
So where did you go to dental school?
University of Iowa, go Hawks.
Ah, okay, Iowa. Iowa. And then did you do your residency there too for surgery?
I did, yes.
So you stayed there, yeah, the
Hmm.
entire time. Wow.
Hmm.
What did your sister end up becoming or doing? What is she?
My sister is the clinical director of Rocky Mountain University, which is
Oh,
a PA, physician's assistant school in Utah.
okay.
And she just finished her PhD probably this year in, I think, healthcare administration and higher education. So
Wow. Just like where did dental come from? It's
yeah,
a woman
well,
or
it
a thing
doesn't
for
it
you.
doesn't sound like a job that has any overlap. She's always been in like career advisement and
Okay.
helping students, either get into schools or whatnot. But it's funny how
Sure.
we've definitely crossed paths because she used to be a pre-professional advisor like at BYU, and it was like this person saying this in their dental school admissions essay. I don't think this is a good idea. What do you think? And I don't know. We don't think so either. So.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how we overlap more than you would think every once in a while, but that's
That's
fun.
so, yeah, that it is so fun. I just find for me, even though I'm no longer in clinical dentistry, I love the profession, I love the career. And when there are when there is anybody that I meet like that's younger and they're like, I don't know what I want to do, I don't know where I want to go, which is so fascinating because my daughter aside, like, right? So my daughter is applying to dental hygiene schools. I never said this to my kiddo because I did not want to have any influence on her decision. I wanted
Right.
her to feel into her heart whatever she wanted to do was totally cool. Same thing with my mom. Ironically, I fell into her footsteps with hygiene and dental, but not through her saying that. I just watched a woman who loved her career, was
Sure.
so passionate about it, and I wanted some quote unquote beer money, right? During breaks and things. So she's like, come in and work with me. And then I met the
Sure.
patients. I fell in love with it. It was an art form, creating like the teeth, you're taking it down to nothing and then building it up. Like I thought it was
Hmm.
fascinating. I loved it so much. But when I meet younger ones that are out there, I'll say, why don't you consider hygiene? Because what a great career and skill. Like for me, I'm like, you have a skill in your pocket. Like you have a license to
Right.
do something where you can make money, you'll be solid. And then even if you wanted to do something else, you could go do it and you could still temp if you wanted.
Right.
Like it's something strong,
Yeah.
right? But I always get back. So it might be like a niece or a nephew, someone, and they'll be like, ew, I could never, like the mouth or teeth. So it's always just so interesting to me, the response, just because of
Oh
their
yeah.
what they think of it. But I'm like, no, it's really the relationship. You have this private relationship, with your patient, and it's actually great and fun. But
I always say there are worse places I could put my hands and many worse places I have put my hands. So as an
oh
oral
my
surgeon and in
God, funny.
training residency.
Oh my gosh. So what made you decide surgery?
So I knew I liked surgery, and I remember our surgery classes. The first couple of years, I just thought they were so fascinating. But I kind of wrote off that I would do that. One, I was worried about how am I going to manage having a family. I knew I wanted to have kids. Delaying trying to get pregnant and doing that was a big concern, and so I wasn't sure if that's something that I could fit into my lifestyle or my life plan. And the other part of it is I'm a fainter.
You are?
I am. I'm a bad fainter. I remember in a pre-dental class in college, they had an oral surgeon come and he was showing wisdom tooth extraction on a video, and I went out in the bathroom and passed out and hit my
Stop
head and had a
it.
seizure and all this stuff. So I was
What?
like, I'm just too much of a fainter. I could never do oral surgery. But I remember being in clinic and the first tooth I ever took out, I just loved it.
Mm.
And I just felt like I had a knack for it. And, everything else in dentistry felt like I had to work really hard for it. And surgery just kind of felt like, okay, this is
Get
my
in and get
jam.
it.
So, I did have a few fainting episodes, early on in my
Really?
training, etc., but you can work through it.
You
And
didn't get
one
discouraged. That's amazing.
and it was helpful because I remember mentioning it to our faculty, uh, uh, and everyone I talked to about it was like, "That's fine, you can get over it. It's no big deal." And like, so thankfully, they didn't think it was a
Yeah,
big deal, and that
good.
really gave me a lot of confidence.
Hmm.
I could have run into a person that would have said like wimpy, or they
Yeah,
could have had a bad
right.
attitude about it and totally could have swayed me. So I'm so
Yeah.
grateful that they had that open, encouraging mindset. And then the part about worrying about my family planning and all of that, luckily we had one woman faculty member in oral surgery. There's so few of us in oral surgery, so it was like such this kind of unicorn moment to have her to work with. And I went and talked to her, and she just really encouraged me, and I could see how she was such a passionate mother and how she was able to still really be there in the home, but also, be doing this career. So definitely having that visibility again, kind of like we talked about already, was so helpful, important on my journey.
Were you married? Were you married in like where did you get married in that on all those years of school?
I got married halfway through dental school.
Okay, dental, not your
Hmm.
surgical.
Yeah,
Ah, okay. So you knew babies were on deck,
we were
but
hoping, yeah.
yes. Did you I don't know this when you had them. You had them on the other side of
Yeah, I waited until I finished
yes.
residency. I had started trying probably like January of my last year, kind of thinking if I have a baby, it'll be after I'm done and everything. I ended up having some infertility issues, did IVF, and so didn't have my first babies, twins, until a year or two out of residency.
Yes. I always was amazed when I was in school how many, yeah, were like pregnant or having kids. I'm like, how in the heck can you do all of this? And especially too, like, oh my gosh, the lack of sleep and everything. So,
I don't know how people do it. I mean, you do it because you have to, when
right.
you're in those situations, you make it happen. But certainly for me, I was glad that I didn't. My husband was still in residency, and sometimes that made it challenging just being the wife of a resident who's busy and also working and all of that. But it was a lot easier for
Yes.
me waiting even with him in training. But
Yeah. Do you have any words about the your journey for infertility? Anything to speak to with that with women that are waiting? I know many women are definitely pushing that out these days to live. I mean, I had my last at 40 and I had miscarriages along the way too. So like part of process, as you
yeah.
um, but you've got two beautiful, gorgeous girls. And so you've got three, right? Because you had one
Yeah.
after the
Hmm.
twins. But
Yep.
Twins is a lot. I can't imagine two babies on top of just getting out of a residency and starting.
Yeah,
Like,
that was a big transition for sure.
I bet.
But I would say with infertility, the first thing I would say is how would I say it? I think we shame ourselves a lot. There's a lot of shame built into fertility. And
Mhm.
I am a very open, vulnerable person. And, we've kind of joked like for me, maybe I'm like a compulsive oversharer, and to like not share things is actually harder for me. It feels very inauthentic to me to like hold things
Yes.
in and not to share.
Yep.
So, um, when I found out I had to do IVF to have a chance of becoming pregnant, I just had this very strong feeling like you're not supposed to talk about this. You're not supposed to talk about this. And I remember that felt so weird to me because I'm usually the type of person that would talk about things, but I just had this strong, I could sense this strong social mores of like, we don't talk about this. And so I did kind of hold it in. I didn't talk about it as much as I normally would have. And it was very hard to go through. Very, very difficult going through IVF. And I've heard some psychologists say when you go through IVF, the feelings and experiences you have are often similar to someone going through cancer treatment, et cetera. And not to discount cancer treatment, but it's just a lot of those same experiences. I did develop PTSD, I think, from that and some other circumstances around my pregnancies and deliveries and all of that. But
Mhm.
um, when I finally opened up, I actually started talking about it. I even started blogging about my journey. That's when it totally changed for me. Suddenly, people were coming out of the woodwork, and I had like
Yeah.
multiple good friends from dental school telling me that they had done IVF or about to do IVF or wondering about doing
Yes.
IVF. Like one of my
Yep.
cousins had never told her parents that she even did IVF.
Gosh, see?
Like so many people, and like I was the first person they ever told a lot of people. And
Wow.
that's where that silence, I think, breeds shame. So even if we're not like
Yeah.
overtly feeling shamed, things that we're not allowed to talk about, it tells our brains that we're not supposed to talk about it because it's shameful. And so I would say find that support system, be open about it. You don't have to be like me and like blogging and telling the world, but find at least one
Yes.
person who can support you, who can be there for you. Because even your partner, like my husband, he
Yeah.
was there, but he's just kind of like, I'll give you the shot sometimes, but like
Yeah.
it was all me. It was
Yep.
pretty much all me, and it was so much to go through. So if you find yourself on that journey, I really encourage you to find at least one person, hopefully someone who has gone through it, who can kind of just give you all the details like, oh, I'm starting this medication, what's it going to be like? And
Yep.
someone that you can bounce those experiences and emotions off of because it's just a lot to go through.
It is. I'm sure so much to hold. The same goes for miscarriages. It's like
Oh,
I
for sure.
so openly speak to them, and then people will say, "Oh my gosh," and whatever. It's so normal. So many women like go through that, and and really hold on to that secretly.
Right.
It helps a lot to speak, yeah, our truths, I think,
I
and
think a lot of times too, the miscarriage thing or like this idea you shouldn't announce your pregnancy until you get to XYZ week or whatever. I mean, I have had that awkward experience where someone told you early and then they miscarriage and you didn't find out. And then later you're like, what
Mhm.
happened? Or
Mhm.
you ask them
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, 6 months ago I lost a baby and you're on
yeah,
Facebook, so you didn't know. So I understand waiting till it feels like a safe time. But I felt like I wanted to be open about it early because if I lost that baby,
yeah,
I wanted to feel like that baby was still important and to me to like validate that life, that person, that experience, and then have people, be able to know what's going on and support me instead of doing that on my own. So, everyone's different how they find that, but I think following
yeah.
those hard and fast rules, again, do what works for you. Don't be worried about if other
Right.
people are going to be uncomfortable talking about it.
Seriously. It's
I
like
remember,
both. Who makes them, It's typically like your upbringing, right?
yeah,
How that quote unquote shaming, that comes from, gosh, ancestral like lines of the way
right.
people were brought up. And
Well, I think the the ability to talk about it is funny too. I remember I was so hugely pregnant that everyone was talking about it. All my patients, just have to, oh wow, every time. And I remember this, I'm in rural Iowa and this like farmer guy comes in and he's like, well, you know how that happens, don't ya? Like, and I was like, yeah, the doctor put the egg and the sperm in a test tube and then it made an embryo. And like he was all like, oh, la, 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 oh,
Oh my
gross.
gosh.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, well,
Yeah.
you're the one that brought it up. And I don't know why the test tube baby is probably an inflammatory term or something, but I don't
Yeah.
know why the test tube version is like somehow grosser or like weirder
Right?
than
It's so wild, people like in their what, yeah, how
if
everybody.
you really want to talk about my sex life in our office, like, please, I guess we can, like, I don't know. I just think like they make these comments not realizing the door they're opening or how
Right, right,
inappropriate
right.
this is. But
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that you're so open though. Like, and again, your authenticity behind it all. So you had the babies, then you had another. So mom of three, you're now you're working, right?
mhm.
As a surgeon, figuring it all out. Did you ever have a nanny? Uh,
Yeah, I've usually had nannies. That's kind of how I survived in the
Same.
very beginning. For me, like trying to get two spots at daycare. It's
Yeah,
very
right.
difficult for two infants.
Uh-huh.
But I was also commuting at that point, 75 miles each direction.
Oh,
So
wow.
I didn't want to have to be up at like the crack of even the more crack of dawn with minimal hours of sleep trying to feed two babies in the night to like
Right.
get them off. So it was so nice I could like leave them in their beds and have her come and just take care of
Oh,
everything.
gosh.
That really made a big difference for me. So
Nannies are
that's
the
really what's
best.
worked. I know. And then if you get one that like cleans or makes dinner or something, that's
Yes.
like a
Yes.
perk. It can't
Yes.
always find that person, but like,
Oh,
make your nanny your personal assistant, just tell them you're going to pay them extra to do these things and just make your
yeah,
life
if they're
easier.
open to it. My
Right.
the two that I had over my entire like lifetime with the kids were very much part of my family. Like still so close to me. I have no words but just such love because they took care of me too.
Oh,
Like
sure.
I mean, and just the awareness and like making sure that I had time like to go out on a date night and
Hmm.
like I would pull my ponytail hair out and walk down the stairs and Sylvia would be like, Senorita, like get back up there. Take that hair out, put some curls in, put some makeup on, like show up, show up. Which ultimately then I would just feel so much better. But she was so much more aware sometimes than I just even was. But just loved on my kids and took them to the playground and did all the things that in that hustle culture that I was in when we're in that work mode and like creating, our career and all of that. I can't even say that I desired because my time, I always wanted to be creating and like figure out ways to market and do all the things. I wasn't in that zone of being like, I want to go to, kitty care, the things where you throw up
Hmm.
and other people love that, which is great, right? But
Hmm.
um it's just amazing how like life plays out timing wise and when we do what we need. But my point with this is that not to again to go back to that quote unquote shame word, so many women say, oh my gosh, I could never have someone to watch my children. And it's like you've got to surrender into doing you, and what happens is it finds a way. Like for me, that time came back to me fully and then some in the
Yeah.
conversations now that I've had with my kids, sit down dinners and all of it, driving them in the conversations. It's just so incredible, and I'm
Yeah.
so grateful. So yeah, nannies, I just feel like we're outsourcing in general for cleaning the house, anything that you need to do.
Well,
You,
when I went back to work, I think I cut back my hours a little bit. I'm trying to remember exactly. Not a lot, but I remember being worried about no, I did. I changed jobs, unfortunately. And so I went down part-time and I was worried about keeping my nanny who was fabulous and finding a nanny that's comfortable with infant twins. So that's a vibe. So,
yeah, right.
um, I ended up just keeping her normal hours. And so I was home a lot more. And, part of me had this guilt of like, oh my gosh,
Yes, you're home and she's
I'm home and here
here.
she's helping and like
Yep.
maybe they didn't get as much time with mom because it's being split with this other person.
Yep.
But, and I really think about it, like, wasn't it amazing that I had that support? And
Yes.
like having two babies at once is so hard. Having one baby is hard enough.
Yes.
And just that really helped me to be more present, when you're not this frazzled, burnout mom and this frazzled, burnt out doctor.
Yeah.
Um, and that they had a whole other person whose full attention during those hours could just love on them and help meet their needs. And so when I
Yes.
think of it that way, I think it's so easy to have the shoulda, woulda, coulda conversation in our brain, and we decide that we need to feel guilty about things that
Never.
really, there's no reason to. There are different ways of doing it, and there's pros and cons to all of it. And kind of what you were saying with your daughter deciding to do hygiene, I think so much of that impact comes from just the life that you live and how they see you living, and not necessarily
Passion.
like what you say or how many hours
Right.
you necessarily spend.
Yes, your cup being filled, like feeling into right, no guilt, no shame, doing what you want. Like when I had Morgan too, I hired a quote unquote baby nurse, but she came through all these mamas of like, oh my gosh, she was like this love. And I didn't have my mom. Like, so not having parents to be able to bring her in, she was like a grandmother figure of love,
Right.
hugs.
Right.
And she did massage and she did baby massage on the newborn, like too, with this hot oil. And like, but my memories now are so locked in of how, what a gift for like Morgan and me. I had a home birth with her. So we were both at home. It was just such a beautiful time. But just take care of you, fill your cup because yes, that's the kids, I believe, baby or not, like feel that too. And it's so
Mhm.
important that you're able to hold it together, especially too, if you're seeing patients, that's an energy sucker. I don't mean like sucker.
Yeah.
It does take a lot of your energy,
Hmm.
especially in dental, because people are afraid. You get to knock them out, but you get to just put some,
They're still very afraid.
yes, I know when they first come in,
They're
but
probably more afraid of me than you, but at least I got the drugs for
yes,
some of
of
them, not all of
course.
them, unfortunately.
Right. Well, let's jump super quick to the moving from all of that career, being a mom, to when it just came into your space that you wanted to empower women. Is that something that was always there? Did it come in later? What like brought forth the, we're going to call it Elevate right now because you haven't announced the new name.
Hmm.
But the retreat that you put on, which was a pretty big thing because again, you didn't know what you were even doing. You were just like, this is an FES, I'm going, and you figured it out and you got it done. And you hosted an incredible retreat, which was super successful, and now you're doing it again, which is
Yeah.
amazing because
Thanks.
you got more and more and more people to impact around the world. So
Definitely. Um, that's an interesting question to kind of dive into my origin story. I mean, I've always been passionate about supporting women. Some of that might have been I grew up in a very religious, conservative community, and we kind of already talked about I just didn't see many women doing these kind of jobs. Most of them were like stay-at-home moms, and I always thought that's what I would end up doing. And then, I'd get a little pushback here and there trying to choose a career. And so I don't know if that's kind of where feeling different or other is kind of where I just always felt like, feminism.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so then becoming a resident in oral surgery, at that point, I remember seeing a study, I think it was 2015, the study was published, only like 2.6% of oral surgeons were women. And so there are very, very few. Um, I did have a faculty member who was a woman, but I just didn't feel like I got a lot of interaction with her, unfortunately. And it was just very isolating and difficult sometimes. I mean, I get along with guys. I've always got along with dudes, and maybe that's why I felt comfortable doing it. But I remember going to the first oral surgery annual meeting that I got to go to as a senior. We got to go. And the two other residents that were chiefs were supposed to go, but they decided not to. So I was there all by myself. And I remember just walking in these huge auditoriums and seeing all of these people. And I was so excited to meet other women. And
Mm.
I see a few and I'd be so excited. And I look at their tag and it'd be like nursing staff. Like I didn't find anyone who looked or felt like me. And I even felt like the faculty members that I ran into from our university, they didn't really like welcome me in or like, yeah, you're here. I felt just kind of ignored and I felt like such an imposter. I felt so worried that everyone was going to figure out that I wasn't supposed to be there. I felt really isolated. Everything they were talking about just seemed so over the top, stuff that I would never be doing. And I just felt like this is supposed to be this like empowering educational experience. And it just left me feeling so unsatisfied and lonely and lacking in confidence. And so when I finally started getting on social media, I started connecting with other women in dentistry and in our field. And when I finally met them in person, it was just like a total transformation. Like suddenly these meetings are fun and I'm going to them and I have people to meet up with and I'm excited to be there and I'm doing extra social things. And it was such a transformative experience. And I just thought I would love if we could just have like a whole weekend of just that. Just an
For
opportunity
surgeons, yeah,
for
women.
us to get together and to just really figure out like, oh, I feel kind of weird being here too. And oh, I'm not doing fibula flaps either. Is that okay? Like, yeah, that's okay. I don't
And
do it,
why is that? And then it's like, let's just tap into the masculine logic, ego, like all of the stuff that we're quote unquote, like, I'm going to say raised with, because you're in school for so many years,
Yeah.
right? With people telling you it's like this way or the highway and you're not good enough and like all of it and having to hustle, hustle, hustle and grind, pun intended, that those feelings that come up, it's just because I'm listening to you and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just like, you know,
Well, and
that,
I feel like our specialty, we have all these factions. There's like the dual degree people that are also
right,
MDs that maybe
right.
look down their
Degrees.
nose at the people who are only single degree and or maybe the single degree people are like, you guys are dumb that you wasted all that time and money. Like there's these two different kind of everyone's ego is trying to find its
Yeah.
place. And then you've
Ego
got
and
the
identity.
private practice people, and you've
Yep.
got the academic people, and you've got the people who are teeth and titanium, and you've got the people who do everything, and it
Right,
just
right.
feels like everyone's trying to
One up.
puff up their chest and
Yeah.
the bravado and make themselves feel better about the choice they've taken. And I wish we could just all come like, isn't it amazing that this doctor is curing cancer in the lab and on patients? And then some of us are in the community and like we're just like shucking the teeth
Being
and
seen
taking
for
care of
the
the
humans, not the
problems.
degree. Yeah.
Yeah, like we
So,
all have a role to play that's very important.
yes.
And I think it's just easy that academic, that patriarchal way to make you just feel like you're not good enough. And us as women, I think we're a little more apt to feel that way. Men seem to have that, like, I'm the man. That's what it felt
Yes.
like in residency. All the guys are like, I'm the man, I'm the man. And I always felt like I was the dumb one. And it took a long time to realize, like, oh, they just had a lot of bravado. They weren't any better than me, but that's not my
No.
personality to go around being like, oh, and then I'd find out later they'd be like, oh, Sheffield, you were like so good at this, or I'd go home and tell my wife how fast and efficient and effective you were, and I'd be like, well, I wish you would have told me that. I always was wondering if I was okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, obviously something was in you, some kind of spark that was like, F them, I'm going. Because you kept
Yeah,
going and you did it and you did it well. And now you are where you are. So the women that you're bringing together now, you have a deep, like just an open heart to help. You created this summit to elevate women, not to, right, to go into their heart core, not they
hmm
don't come in, their degrees checked at the door, their white coats like left behind. It's really about the women finding themselves, right, coming back and reconnecting to their purpose, their desire, their why, who they are as the human and the mom and wife and friend that is easy to forget when you are, having to show up a certain way,
definitely.
quote unquote professionally, depending on where you are. Because if you work for someone else, it's very different too than you doing your own thing. You created, which was perfect when you were saying you took a step back. That's awesome because you were working for um, some like what would you call it? Practice.
Yeah.
Like for me, starting from scratch, I popped my baby out and I went right back. I had a miscarriage, like while I was extracting a tooth. Actually, I'll never forget
Oh
that. My first one, 'cause I
no.
was extracting a tooth when I felt like I got kicked in the gut with like a steel boot, like
Oh.
went down. And, but it's just like you go regardless. And so you're creating this like sanctuary for women to come together to, which I love because like you're saying, they come in like the feeling that you had, which was, like I don't know anyone and I don't know like what to say and all of those things, and you just kind of like pull back the curtain to them, like I said, just coming home, and I love that. So you create this like all-inclusive retreat wellness. Oh my gosh, let's just talk quick because you and I could talk for hours, so like you're gonna have to button it up. It's a point here, but oh my gosh, an important oh my gosh, point. I just had it was for your retreat. Um, oh my goodness. Well, one, you had dentists come that were not surgeons that didn't feel like they belonged initially, right? And there was just kind of
Hmm.
some stuff you had to work through, some stuff that was kind of entangled with that.
Hmm.
Um, but this one, yeah, you are ready to go. It will come back to me. I was just thinking something amazing that would have landed, but
It
it
was
pops
so
back in.
amazing. I'm sure it'll come back.
Yes. So your this retreat, like I said, you're going all in, and you know what to do. Was there any uh, fear around building it, stepping forward and saying I'm just going all in? Because obviously you could have said, well, hey, I can just be a surgeon and go home with my kids and do the things. Like I said, you were called for more, but it takes a lot, because I've hosted retreats too. It takes a
Hmm.
lot to
Hmm.
get everything. People probably don't even realize that, don't do them, the behind the scenes minutia, on top of the fact that like there's a lot of online stuff like email sequences. How do you collect an email, like sales pages, all of that other stuff that goes on too. Then the social media, the marketing,
Oh
promotion,
yeah.
sponsorships, etc. So you took on a lot with that.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things that's been ruminating in my brain for probably a decade. And so there was definitely that moment of taking it from my brain or from paper and like making it real. And when you sign that contract with the resort and you have
Just do it.
$100,000 on the line. That made it very real and kind of
Yeah.
scary. And the hardest thing was I have this vision and I knew exactly how I wanted it to go. And I knew the person that was for and how they were going to feel and experience this. But how do you convince other people to know and understand that that's what they're going to feel, that that's what they're going to experience, that that's even what they want, converting that experience for people to want to buy or, the
Okay.
sale
Let's
was the
just
hard part.
no, not really, because you did it. This is how I've done it too. This is the secret sauce and the magic. First of all, I just want to pin, because I'm sure any listeners were like, oh my gosh, $100,000. She had that because she was a surgeon. Let's just stop there, because what I found fascinating, if we can even touch on this, is when I talked to you about that, you were like, get this, you guys, like you can, when you want something badly enough, it will find its way to you and it all works out. You had an arrangement that you would get paid after the fact as the ticket sales came in. And
Hmm.
therefore, it took care of yourself because you were so grounded in believing and knowing in your body that it was going to work. Again, vision to paper, right? And you stepped forward with that frequency and knowing like this is bigger than me, and the women will find me. The ideal buyer will find me. I don't have to go chase, I attract, right? And it
Right.
worked. And so
Hmm.
this is the thing, which I feel like is so important for women out there that have a bigger vision, even if it's to become a surgeon, a doctor, like whatever it is, or you want to pivot in your life and do a different career. You get so caught up in the minutia, all like the
Hmm.
stuff. No, if it's a vision in your head and it's on your heart, like I said, take it to paper and just start, take action, right?
Yeah,
When you say,
definitely. Well, and when it was done, it went so well that I remember some people were saying, "Oh, I'm so surprised it went as well as it did." And I was like,
oh,
I was not surprised at all. It went
surprise.
exactly how I expected. It
Yes.
went exactly how I knew in my heart it was going to go. So I
Thank you
guess
very
that I
much.
had a true vision, and thankfully we pulled the vision off, with some good planning and time and help, etc. But Yeah, you have to
And
take
those are
that risk.
projections, as we know, projections from people that it's not yours to carry either. That's something that someone else is like, God, I kind of wish I could have done. They say it that way, but in their heart. And it's like, but you then wear a mirror back to them, but like you can do it too, like, or whatever you desire, you can do. I love it's just helping to kind of break down all of those layers. It's like the more women that obviously you were called to lead, and the more women that you can impact, the better. So you're going to be hosting this retreat, which is going to be amazing. And oh, I remembered what I wanted to say. The wellness. Okay, you guys. When she was naming, when you were naming the retreat, because we've talked a lot about this, is that sponsors wouldn't even necessarily come forward if we say, as women, it's going to be a retreat, which is a personal development space where obviously you're talking business too, right? But
Yeah.
they can't like define it. It has to be that masculine, like, and I think are you doing CE as well or no?
Hmm.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. You do have CE. I don't even do CE because I'm like, I'm not playing that freaking game.
Yeah.
No, but that's crazy because that goes back to the patriot, that just, ugh.
It was frustrating. I mean, I've heard rumors and I've seen a little bit along the way too that um, sometimes when women events, especially in our specialty, have tried to get some sponsorship, that sometimes there's pushback from either like the association, like, oh, is that taking dollars from our pool? Or the sponsors are a little nervous to get involved. And we're just kind of starting to see a few more of them wading in and dabbling in on that. And so it seemed like, okay, this is your chance to show you were there from the beginning, like supporting women. That's how I'm looking at it. We are like a really strong niche when you think of women just in the world or in this country. Women are like the buyers, we're the decision makers,
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
and we are that in our practices too. And when we see these sponsors showing up, we will be loyal. We will be so glad to see like you showed up. So we had some really big industry leaders willing to offer large amounts of money as sponsorships, and at the last minute had to back out because it was a wellness retreat and they couldn't, because of sunshine laws or whatever, they couldn't, the optics of looking like they're paying for like a spa event, even though they would give us like, if you could make it like this event, we could probably help you. But
Make it
we had
look like
like more CE offered or similar CE offered to like some of the events, but since we were having it at like a all-inclusive luxury wellness resort, that
yeah.
was, somehow not okay as opposed to having it at like a convention center at the Hilton or something. So
Yeah, it's so crazy to me having to prove because I was just asked to be like on this board and do some things for a company that it's like, oh, and then at the end and it was like, and send your portfolio of all your cases. And I'm like, hold up, first of all, you asked me. I practiced for 18 years cosmetic dentistry, which you can go to the website or my Instagram and go back and see the before and afters if you want, because I also had two other, like, you can find me and you can
yeah,
look, but I'm not going to prove any of that to you,
yeah,
right?
sure,
It's got to be either you desire this or you don't, because I need to
right.
feel in alignment with it. And so I hope a lot of this is starting to kind of fall away as we move in this world towards, and I hope, like I said, the older paradigm of medicine and dentistry and all of that starts to kind of fall away. And you're one of those impact leaders. So thank you for that, changing the world. And how you're doing that is, you're starting a podcast, which is going to be launching soon
Mhm.
called
It's called the Resting Stitch Face podcast.
Love it. Oh my gosh.
It'll be a little cheeky, just like its name.
I love it. And that's going to be for any of you out there. Like I said, that is literally on the cusp, pun intended. That's going to be
Yep.
coming. And do you want to talk about the name of your retreat yet, or do you
Sure. Yeah, we can release it to the world, I guess. No better place than here on the Happy CEO
go
podcast.
for it, girl?
It is going to be called The Doctor is All In,
I love
or
it.
Dial In for short.
Dial in, baby. We were saying that when we were talking off mic about that and about being all in, like for you, like again coming home to you. And I just think it's so brilliant and it's so amazing. And you're so amazing, changing the world just like one female surgeon at a time and collectively like moving the masses by bringing them together. It's so amazing. Thank you so much for like coming on and being vulnerable and talking about, all of it. I mean, like I said, there's so much more we could unpack, but you'll have to go listen, you guys, over on her podcast because she'll be, I'm sure, diving in a lot deeper with a lot of this. And we'll drop a lot of, in the show notes here where to find you. Do you want to let everybody know where the best places are to find you?
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find on social media. My handle on both Instagram and TikTok is Dr. DrErinSheffield, Dr. Erin Sheffield. So I'll be dropping all the info on the podcast and the retreat there. That's probably the first place to go.
I love it. And we'll have everything again in the show notes below. Just before we leave, if you had just like one thing, like wisdom that you could share with women out there, like a wisdom drop bomb, what would it be? Like a golden nugget?
Yeah, probably my biggest mantra for myself or just advice I would give for people would be that your true authentic self is the best thing you have to offer to your patients. And for me, what that means is, again, it's going back to that coulda, woulda, shouldas. The patriarchy, what does professionalism mean? What are we supposed to be doing? How are we supposed to be acting in our practices? And I found a lot of those should have things aren't really serving me or my patients. Like showing who I am, doing what feels authentic, whether it fits into the box of professionalism, that's a lot better for me. So, if it's like you're not supposed to be emotional or open up to your patients or let them see you, if I give someone a cancer diagnosis and I tear up, I lean into that. I might give them a
Yes, I love
hug.
that.
I might tell them like how sorry I am, instead of just that like very clinical like we're trained
Yes.
to do.
Mhm.
If I have an emergency with my kids, I might bring them to the office. And some people might be annoyed that their kids in the office. There's no place for kids to be, But if my kids can be there, happy and thriving and doing well, also seeing mom do her thing at work is
Yes, so
probably
important.
advantage for them.
Yes.
And I'm getting the job done, then like, isn't that great that I didn't call out? There's just
Yes.
so many kind of frameworks of is your hair professional enough? If you have ethnic hair and you're not allowed to have natural hair. Those kind of things just are so dumb to me. Your hair is
Mhm.
your hair. How you grow it should be professional. Either way, let's be groomed to take care of ourselves. But there's just all these kind of silly written and unwritten rules, and they don't always serve us, and they're not always serving our patients. Just lean into who you are, share that with your patients, and they are going to really appreciate and reciprocate that.
I love that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I always say stop should-having all over yourself. One, and two, I'm just going to piggyback on Dr. Erin's comment with that because she is speaking to patients, but I know that we are both on the same page with showing up authentic. Like authenticity is literally everything. You are a beautiful human being with like unique gifts. We all have unique like fingerprints right here. We all have something that we're supposed to bring to this world. And so, surgeon, not like if you're here and you're listening, doesn't matter what you're doing, like just be authentically, like beautifully you. And anybody that has any thoughts about it can go take a walk on the other side while you take a walk on the wild side because life is as good as you decide to make it. And every precious day that you're not showing up individually is like truly embodied like who you are is a day wasted. And they say that that graveyards are the wealthiest places on earth because so many dreams do die there because people just keep them within inside because they're afraid of what people will think or being
Oh, for sure.
judged. And that's not what we're here for. So find your tribe. It's like Dr. Erin, you got your tribe too. Like there are many of us here, and there's somebody for everybody. So find, as I say, your frequency of like, and just plug into somebody that lights you up, someone that can be a mirror to you and help you move, because we're here to like move the energy through and not stay stuck. So, Dr. Erin, thank you so much for being with me here today, for bringing the Happy CEO podcast back. We'll probably put this over on Dental Confidential too, since it speaks their love language. And everyone, just go head over and follow her, give her a follow on Instagram. She is super, super funny. And so authentic. She speaks to everybody over there. And it's just awesome, really, like all women. So you're the best. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We'll see y'all in the next episode.